Hey guys, AJ here. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing good. In this video, we are gonna see how we can add a power up item and maybe even a armor modifier item which just lasts for a few seconds and then wears off, so that the player gets a boost for a short amount of time, beats up all the enemies, then goes back to normal. So without further ado, let's get started. So guys, I'm gonna need to change the item script up a little bit to include power-ups. So first of all, we don't need this health item, which is a boolean I created in the previous video, and that was because I was thinking we will be using health items from the equipment script, and we don't need to do that because we can just make scriptable objects with item and not equipment. So we will be good with just without using the equipment script, and so we don't need to have a check here if it is an item or something that can be equipped or not, if you know what I mean. And but we do need is something like an equipment slot over here in the equipment script, which is an enum, where we can check what the item does, not the equipment. If it is a health item, if it is a power up, or something that gives an armor boost, and we can have all sorts of items in our game. So I'm just gonna create a enum, and since we deleted the health item, which is used in this method, and this method just returns health items, so we don't really need this as well, so let's delete that. Now I'm gonna create a new enum over here, and let's just call this item type, and right now let's just have health, power up, and again we do armor, and I think that's enough today. Now we are gonna need to have a field over here which is of type item type, and let's just call it item type. And when we call the use method from here, let's also send in an item type. And now let's go to the equipment manager, add another field here of type item type, and let's just call it item type. So we're going to use a switch over here, so switch item type and case 0, which is health. Then we are going to say we use this method and case 1. Then we are going to say we power up. We got an error, cannot implicitly convert into an item type, that just because we are using item type over here, and we just need to cast it to an integer. Should be gone now. And let's say type 2 is an armor boost. Now what we're gonna do is do the item script, and we are gonna move this health modifier onto our equipment, and let's just make it public. Now let's go to equipment manager. Here let's not use the get health modifier from the item script, instead let's use old item dot health modifier and new item dot health modifier. So this should work. Now we're gonna have an error here because we don't have an health modifier in this script. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new field float, and let's just call it modifier, so that we can use it for all the items. Health, speed. Oh, also have a speed booster. Should be good. Armor and power. Oh. Actually, since we are only gonna use the modifier inside the equipment, inside the item script, we don't need a function to do that. We can just use the field directly. So I'm just gonna replace this with the modifier field we just created, and let's go to equipment manager, kind of change the name of the script the class equipment manager to item manager, because this script is kind of doing both equipment and items. So I don't find it appropriate to call it equipment manager anymore. So right click, rename, let's just say item modifier, hit apply, and this should be changed everywhere else. Yeah. And one thing you need to do is you need to go ahead and change it even here as well. So F2 item modifier. Let's add another case for the speed boost we just created. So case 3 is gonna be speed boost. And one difference here is gonna be that health modifier is gonna be working permanent, because once we add to the health of the player, it is not gonna go away. But power-ups can just like stay for a certain amount of time. So we are gonna need to have a field in the equipment manager to do that. Let's also make it float, and let's say lasting time, because it would be really fair if a player finds a power up potion and drinks it, and he is powered up throughout the entire game. The power up should just last for like 15 seconds or something, and then go away. So yeah, we have added another field for that as well. Let's pass it to our use method in the item manager now. So lasting time, and let's go to item modifier, add another field, plot lasting time. Now for the power up, let's go to the fighter script, add a new core routine here, so that we will be able to make the effect last for a particular amount of time. So I enumerator, let's call it power up, and this is gonna take in a parameter which is lasting time. Let's say heal return, wait for seconds, lasting time, and this is gonna make a power up last for a certain amount of time before we do something. So after the lasting time is finished, we are just gonna set these modes that we have here to 0, so that we don't have a power up anymore. And we are gonna be calling this power up from the damage modifier, and we are gonna have a extra field in here, so that we will be able to pass in the lasting time from item manager now. So let's just make it a float lasting time, and this should be good. And if the lasting time is greater than 0, then we are gonna call this core routine with the lasting time, and this should be fine, because from the item manager here, when we call the damage modifier, that is when an equipment has a damage modifier in it, then we don't need to take that power up after a certain amount of time, because the player is still holding the weapon. So I'm just gonna send in a 0 and F for float. So if the lasting time is 0, then the fighter, we are not gonna call this core routine, and here of course we are just gonna call fighter dot damage modifier, and let's see what do we need to pass in. Yeah, we need a damage modifier is present item and lasting. Okay, so for that we can just pass in the modifier Oh yeah, and let's just change this in here to modifier. So let's hit rename modifier, because it's not just a health modifier right now, because we are gonna use the same field for health, power up, armor boost, everything. So it's not really suiting to call it health modifier. So we're gonna need to pass in the modifier is percent and lasting time. Okay, but we have still, yeah, that's because the damage modifier is an integer. So what I'm gonna do is let's just go to the equipment script where we have the damage modifier, make it a float, and let's go to fighter. Yeah, while we're here, let's just change the armor modifier to a float as well. Now let's go to fighter script and change the damage modifier here to a float. Let's change the data type of a mod array to a float. And I don't think we need the casting right here now, so we can just delete them off. Then we are going to need to go to health, and this is an integer because the mod here is an integer, so let's change it to float. And let's say we change it in the armor modifier to a float as well. And if we go to item manager, yeah, we don't have a error in the armor modifier, so that's good. And yeah, we should be fine with this. So guys, we kind of got another issue here, because if the player is holding a item which adds to the damage, then he finds a power potion and drinks it, then after a particular time has passed, the power up that he gains by equipping the item is also gonna go away. If we call the coroutine from here and set all the modifiers to 0, so this is kind of not gonna work. But so I'm gonna change this up a little bit to include that as well. Here, after we check if it is a percentage or not, we are gonna add another condition to check if it is having a lasting time greater than 0. And if it has a lasting time greater than 0, we do something else. We just go with what we have here. So when we have a lasting time greater than 0, what we can do is we can create an integer, or since we have made all the modifiers to float, let's make a float mod 1 and set it to damage star modifier by 100. Actually, we can kind of do this outside this if lasting time greater than 0. And yeah, this is kind of gonna work, at least I think it is. So we're gonna make 3 for damage 2, damage 3, and this is gonna be modifier 2, and this is gonna be modifier 3. And in case it is not something that goes away after a certain time, we are gonna set mod 0 to mod 1, because we already calculated the percentage and set it to mod 1. Let's do for mod 2 and modifier 3. Okay, and in case it is something that lasts only for a short period of time, then we can say we increment the modifiers with that amount. and then we call the coroutine from here, and we don't just pass the lasting time, we also pass in the mod 1, mod 2 and mod 3. So let's add 3 more floats to this coroutine. And once the time has passed, instead of setting everything to 0, we are gonna just decrement the modifiers by the corresponding amount, and this should work. So we don't need this if here. Instead, we are just gonna use it here inside this else as well. So if the amount that we pass in here is not a percentage, we can just go ahead and set mod 0 to damage modifier. I mean increment the mod 0 with damage modifier, and do the same for the other modifier as well. Here let's call the power up coroutine, and instead of passing in mod 1, mod 2 and mod 3, we are gonna pass in damage modifier for all 3 float variables. If you see here, we kind of have another error in here. That's because when I changed the modifier to float, I didn't change it here. So let's just change it, the array. Yeah, we should be fine now. So guys, for the armor modifier, we are basically kind of gonna do the same thing as we did with the damage modifier. In here, we are gonna use health and call in the armor modifier, pass in the modifier is percent and lasting time. Then let's go to the health script where we have the armor modifier. We are gonna need to add another float to include the lasting time. And if the lasting time is greater than 0, then we are gonna set this dot mod plus equals mod, else we are gonna replace the mod in this health script with the modifier we pass down to this method. And here we are gonna need to call a coroutine so that the modifier effect only lasts for a particular amount of time. So let's make that here. Let's call this protection, and let's just go to item script and change the armor here to protection as well, because I think that suits more. Item modifier, we should have named this script item manager, not the item modifier. I kind of done that by mistake. So okay, yeah, now here in protection we are gonna take in a float which is the lasting time and modifier, and here we are just gonna first wait for lasting time and then reduce the modifier by the mod that we passed down here, lasting time and mod will return new, wait for seconds, lasting time, then we are gonna need to take that away. So that is this dot mod minus equals mod. and this should be working. Now we get an error in the item manager because the armor modifier is taking a new variable, that is lasting time. So we are gonna pass in 0 over here when it is called in case of an equipment, because we don't wanna take the modifier away until we replace the weapon. So for the speed boost, I'm kind of not going to do anything right now because I'm thinking of adding a new separate script, which would have the character's health, speed, the damages the player can do, all those kinds of stuff, and then we can use those to get the health inside the health script or the damages in the fighter script, everything, because then we would just need to have like a single instance of a class in this item manager. We don't need a fighter health, separate instances for everything when we can do all in one script. And if you want to go ahead and do the speed modifier, you can. That would be by modifying the move speed multiplier in the third-person character script, which we got when we downloaded the standard assets pack. And I have done a video on setting up player movements in the pass, so you can go check that out. I'll put a link to that in the description down below. So guys, in the item script, I'm just gonna quickly add another item type, none, because the equipments like weapon and armor doesn't have any particular item type, and since we are using the equipment script for those which derives from item, we are gonna have a field item type in those as well. So a weapon may increase both the health and the damage the player causes, so it doesn't have any particular category to fall into, because we are gonna be using the modifiers in the equipment script for weapons instead of the single modifier field that we have in the item script. And we are gonna need to place it in the last position, because otherwise we are gonna need to change the switch cases as well. So now let's head into Unity and test these out. So guys, I have changed the description on the chicken leg to increases damage. We are gonna use this as a power up item from now on, and I have set the modifier to 5, lasting time as 10, and the item type to power up. And on the health portion, I have changed the item type to power up and modifier to 50%. This just to test in this video, because we don't really have another sprite for a new scriptable object. So we have kind of already tested the health item in the previous video, so we can just use this for testing power up now. And on the blade, I have added a damage modifier of 50% as well. Now let's go ahead and hit play and see if this works out. Guys, I'm just gonna pick some of these items up. Hope we get a blade, a health potion, and a chicken leg. Yeah, now I'm just gonna go attack this punching bag default enemy with bare hands, and we got 2 and 3 coming out of the top of the game object. And now let's try equipping a blade and see if the damage modifier, which is 50%, is working out. So yeah, we got 3 and 4.5, which is kind of correct, I guess. And now let's try eating this chicken leg out. So our power should be increased by 5 now. Yeah, and it has, so that's working out. Let's wait for a few seconds, see if it bears out. Yeah, it has, so that is cool. Now if we try to drink this health potion, our power should be increased by 50%, and it has, yeah. So that's working out as well. See if it bears out after a few seconds. Yes, it does. So that's all working fine, and the armor modifier is also going to be working fine. You can check that out on your own, because we kind of use the same criteria for both the damage modifier as well as the armor modifier. So if damage modifier is working, we know that armor modifier should be working as well, so we don't need to test that out right now. So guys, one thing here is that when the player eats up a chicken leg, then drinks up health potion, the total damage is going to be a added up version of both of that. So I haven't really decided to whether have the player use only one power up at a time, or he can just stack all the power ups together and use them. But if you don't want to allow the player to use more than one power up at a time, you can just go ahead and add a new flag in the fighter script, so that the flag is going to be checked once the player uses up a power up item, and once it wears out, that is in the power up coroutine that we have here, we are just gonna set it to false, and we can have a check here if the lasting time greater than 0 and the flag is false, then we allow the player to have another power up used, else we just block it or send out a message saying that the player is already using a power up. But I'm not gonna use that now. Maybe I'll do a video on that later once I have decided whether to allow the player to have more than one power ups used at a time or not. So guys, hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Also go ahead and subscribe to my channel, that would really help me out. Until next time, see ya, bye.